I really should have titled this Rise from the Planet of the Naked Mole Rats, because this is about how well suited the naked mole rat would be to create a society that would make way better spacefarers than humans ever could. Not that naked mole rats wouldn't make a decent society on the planet too, but as I've already discussed elsewhere, planetary locked civilizations are the universe's second class citizens. If you're unfamiliar with the naked mole rat, you're in for a treat. This is a fun animal to know about. Full disclosure, I haven't done any credible research on naked mole rats or anything. I've just read about them a bit and remember some stuff. If any of the specifics here are inaccurate, meh. I'm pretty sure the point about them making great astronauts is just as meaningless regardless if this is accurate or not. But as a rule, I encourage people to never believe anything I say and check me on everything and everyone else too. So, naked mole rats. The name is pretty descriptive. Naked mole rats are rodents. They live underground and root around like moles, and they are militant nudists, or they just don't grow hair. Naked mole rats are unique for being the only known eusocial mammal, meaning that like some insects, they have genetically distinct castes, and only certain castes are reproductives. They're like sort of hive mammals with queens and workers and whatnot. They're already closer to being the Borg than humans, even with all of our gadgets. So I think eusocial species in general have tremendous advantages in creating civilizations due to their innate cohesion. Of course, such a society might be a horrific dystopian nightmare to us, but the universe doesn't really care how you survive. At some point, I may do a thing on the reasoning for why eusocial species in general are probably the dominant form of intelligent life in the universe, but for now, just know that's what I think, so I'm going to say some things based on that assumption. I'll get more into the eusocial aspect as it pertains to naked mole rats in a minute, but let's look at some of their other advantages first. First, they have relatively long lifespans for small rodents. Longish lifespans seem like a critical necessity for civilization in general. But now that I've said that, I'm rethinking it, because who knows what constitutes a long lifespan in a universe of infinite possibility. Maybe a society of quantum fleas that die in 2 seconds could build a sophisticated culture that perseveres at cosmic timescales just because they're really good at assimilating all the cultural knowledge in the first 100 milliseconds, and it makes the next 1900 milliseconds really productive life. I don't know. Maybe lifespan is so relative you just can't say long means anything. But I'm still saying longish lifespan is advantageous, even though I can't really think of a meaningful metric for long. Let's just say the ish part covers some environmental tuning variable that makes it mean something. A big thing with the naked mole rats is oxygen demands. They're incredibly flexible compared to other mammals' respiration. They've evolved to deal with living underground, where oxygen may or may not be sufficient at any given time and place. They can switch to a whole different cellular respiration process that extends the time they can survive in low oxygen or high CO2. You'll have to look up the biological mechanism for yourself, but the gist is they have options that give them time to deal with an absence of oxygen before it kills them. Naked mole rats also don't itch, apparently. They lack some protein or receptor or whatever, and they don't itch or feel a lot of the common pain sensations that we feel on our skin. It might be a double-edged sword in some ways, but you can't argue that it solves a lot of problems before they start. Any species that goes to space is probably going to have to deal with very, very common periods of extreme discomfort. There are plenty of ways to get around the issue, but just not feeling a large majority of what causes immediate discomfort seems like a very effective solution. There's just a lot going on with their biochemistry that's a little different than most mammals in ways that it was adapted for a subterranean lifestyle. So, seems to translate pretty directly to space tube life. Even humans seem to favor tubes in space, so it seems like a species that was made for tubes would do even better with them. And they're pretty accustomed to being tightly packed in small spaces because they live literally crawling on top of one another in underground hives. And that segues us back into the unique advantages of naked mole rats being eusocial, which I really hope I'm saying right. So insects have the best known eusocial species. Bees and ants are the most familiar examples. Insects in general do have some amazing advantages that could work for space, but so far we haven't seen any examples of high order thinking from insects. So the eusocial thing may be useful, but may be limited in scope without more capable individual units. Naked mole rats aren't exactly geniuses as they are, but they have a lot of the basic architecture of higher mammals, so I don't see why they couldn't evolve greater mental capacity while retaining a lot of their advantages. Humans as a species have been pretty successful because we are Earth's premier generalist species. We can do pretty much anything pretty well, but not amazing. We can walk, run, jump, climb, crawl, swim, bite, stomp, grab, twist, pretty much anything any other animal can do, just not as well as any of them. Also, we can digest a lot, but there are omnivores that put even humans to shame. The only thing we do that is genuinely amazing is distance running. Bipedal locomotion is so efficient we can persistence hunt by basically jogging towards animals until they die of exhaustion. Of course, it works best when you carry water, and that's technology, but that's part of what being a generalist lets you do. So, though being a generalist can be generally advantageous, you can never be quite as effective as a specialist in their specialty. I'm compelled to mention a Heinlein quote here about generalists. He said, "A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects." That's a good quote. I've always liked that quote, and I wholly agree with the sentiment regarding human beings, though I have come to think the last part might have been a little unfair to insects, at least eusocial insects. I think eusocial species are generally successful because they can actually be a little bit generalist as a species, while the individual castes carry specializations. Rodents in general might be Earth's second most impressive generalist species. They also do a lot of what every other animal does, just not nearly as well. A eusocial rodent has the ability of a eusocial species to retain cooperative instincts while specializing genetically, but it adds a generalist mammalian framework to those that those genetic specialties could be extended on. Naked mole rats are a highly generalist species that can take advantage of specialization without necessarily losing their generalist capacity. Well, they're built on a general species. Actually, naked mole rats are kind of specialists in their own right, but being rodents is what I'm saying. Plus all the other stuff about being tunnel dwellers. It all seems like a winning combination to me. It does seem a little weird and unfair that little wrinkly pink dirt monsters would be such a perfect species for spaceflight. I don't know what to tell birds. Nature gave them a taste of space, but I think they'd make terrible astronauts. And giraffes, they would have made great astronomers, but their Mercury program would have been a horror show. I didn't make the rules. I'm just trying to put together an all-star team of Earth life to represent Earth in space because humans just aren't cutting it.